Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
How are we all feeling about the Xbox Direct, Devolver Digital Direct E3 that happened on Thursday night?
Excited
Tonight.
for it at time of recording.
Have you seen that they've already potentially leaked the date for Doom the Dark Ages ahead of the thing? May 15th, apparently.
Oh.
We'll find out more tonight.
Happy birthday to me,
time-
nearly.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Interesting. Yeah. So at the time of recording, it hasn't actually happened
It's
yet,
tonight.
unfortunately. Depending on how groundbreaking and earth-shattering the mystery game is, I mean, realistically, we're not going to do an addendum to the podcast like we did for the Switch 2 last week. However, we will cover it in the news video that came out yesterday on the channel. So please stay tuned for that. But as it stands, we have no idea what happened.
No.
there.
Well, we know 3 of the games that were there.
Yes.
Yeah,
we
because
do.
they've said, and then it's mystery game at the end. So will it be?
What are the chances
Oblivion?
it is Oblivion?
I feel the wording was a little bit.
It was
It
like
said-
a brand new studio or
a
new
new
game.
project
New
or
game.
something.
from a
It was
new
like, does that
studio.
mean it's actually like completely new IP or just newly revealed, newly announced? So it could be Oblivion, or it could be, I don't know.
I have nary a clue.
I'm also hoping that maybe as part of it, it's not just those 4 games, but there's also a little bit of housekeeping or admin at some point, and they say, by the way, these games are coming to PS5 on this date, or to
Do you reckon
Switch
they'd do that? I mean, I suppose
I don't
they
know.
would, but it's still such a strange thing to wrap our heads around
Yeah.
that could even happen.
But we know it's happening with Indiana Jones, for example.
We
so
do.
I want a date for that, and whether they might not want to use their own special Xbox hour to talk about a different console. So maybe
No.
it wouldn't be.
We might get
time
the
to do
information
it.
about those games if they're coming to PlayStation 5.
Yeah, true. And then you might be
Yeah.
able to assume that perhaps they're all coming at the same time,
Yeah.
or yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
We'll know in approximately 9 hours.
9 hours, negative 20, however many. I'm not doing the maths.
Really
we know at
putting
the time of
yourself
release,
into a
but we don't know. We don't know now. Each and every week, we're sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor. Helps us keep the lights on in this room. Dead Island 2: The Spider is hibernating still.
Yeah.
There is a Dead Island 2: The Spider on the stairs in our office.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, just sort of hanging out.
that's nice, and I hope he's having a good time.
Yeah.
Peter, do you have the ad read in front of you?
Got an ad read here. It's very exciting. They got in touch with us specifically because they know how much of a fan I am. Not of the main game, but of the DLC for this game that's coming out. There's some cross promotion coming out for Plants vs Zombies, which is
Okay.
all very exciting, and it's themed around a franchise very close to my heart. They said we need to get Peter Austin
Oh,
to
I
talk
know
about
where we're
this.
going.
Ashton knows where we're going. It comes out today at time of recording. It's already out for you guys. Plants vs. Zombies, Jedi Flower Battles.
Oh wow!
Wow. Fun.
Wow.
Do the flowers have like robes and lightsabers
go
and stuff?
pew pew.
Oh wow!
And then, some of them go shwoom, shwoom,
Wow,
warp, woof.
that's great.
Yeah.
Shwoom.
So you're a big Plants vs Zombies fan? Yeah.
I am now.
actually love
Okay.
Plants vs Zombies.
Do you?
Yeah.
My wife
Are they
loves
still
it.
making them? Is that
Don't
still
know.
happening?
I don't know.
It's been a
Not sure.
while.
I think Garden Warfare was the last one.
The sort of third person
yeah.
shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Hey, maybe the zombies in this will be the zombie stormtroopers from that book that you had,
Oh yeah, Death Troop
Death Troopers,
or whatever it's
yeah.
called. That's a great book. I really enjoyed that, and then they retconned it.
Yeah. And
And then
Death
they-
Troopers are now something else.
Are they?
They use the term. I think they're those really tall, like all black armor ones from Rogue One.
I thought there were like some reference to like zombie storm.
There are
Yeah,
also
they
zombie
did.
stormtroopers in like Clone Wars and
I was going to
stuff.
say.
And that Ahsoka show is that?
Yes, yeah, they
I
were
think
sort of zombies,
that
but
was
there's
the
also
closest.
like parasite worm zombies in Clone Wars.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Well, this one was cool because it had like Han Sorbo in it and stuff, and I enjoyed that book. I thought it was really good.
Yeah. Well, the game's not real.
Oh,
The
what?
book was retconned.
Right, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you
Are
want
you-
zombies, you have to go to Clone Wars or Ahsoka.
You excited for Jedi Power Battles?
Do you know what? Like, I don't quite know because I played it a tiny bit back in the day, never owned it, and I always thought, oh, that game is really cool. I want to have it and play it.
Yeah.
And then finally, now the opportunity has come for me to play it on current systems, and I'm like, it was apparently really hard.
Yeah.
And do I want to like sit down and like struggle through a game that is not only just dated naturally, but also difficult as well. Like, I don't know. So I'm going to give it a go and just hope that I enjoy it. But I
used to have it.
Don't want it to be a chore.
And it was a case of just, I started that game from the beginning about 2 dozen times. And I used to like playing as Plo Koon. Plo Koon, because he has a yellow lightsaber, and I thought that was interesting.
Which was retconned.
Was it?
I believe so.
Oh, what's going on?
I don't think it's yellow anymore.
I hate this world.
Me too. I thought it was really cool.
And everyone in it.
And
I hate it. Well, I used to play as him. I remember getting to Coruscant.
The piss saber.
Yeah. I love my dehydrated piss saber.
Yeah, don't cross the blades.
I just distinctly remember getting to Coruscant over and over again and failing to do platforming sections and just plummeting to my death and losing all my... I feel like half my lives were lost just breathing
But you might be better at it now that you're an adult.
And now it'll have that rewind feature in it, won't it? So
will it?
I think so, yeah.
I hope they've made it finishable. If it is finishable, then maybe I'll do it. Because I really enjoyed playing through all of Dark Forces, having never finished that, but playing that number of times. Anyway, that's by the by.
You can play as Jar Jar Binks now. They've added playable Jar Jar Binks.
So if I do die over and over again, I will also win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It sounds like a victory either way. We're not sponsored by
Jedi Flower Battles.
Jedi Flower Battles. We are, of course, sponsored by our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/Team TripleJump. If you go there and support us, you get access to all sorts of wonderful rewards, including asking questions on this podcast, early access to worst and weirdest games, exclusive access to episodes of Rules Boss and Main Menu, and at higher tiers, After Dark as well. So please consider going over there. TripleJump.mup is our website. That's where you can find links to everything that we do. TripleJumpShop.com if you'd like some lovely merchandise. We're all wearing merch today. All wearing merch
hoodie
today.
on.
I'm wearing 3 merches today.
Wow.
I'm layered up because it's bloody cold. Sat over it. There's literally, don't know if we've spoken about this on the podcast before, a hole in the floor behind my desk.
A tiny one. It's not a health and safety issue, but it's a hole.
You can feel the cold coming in through it. And
every now and then a draft
freezing.
will just hit us and we're like, where's that coming from? And it's from the hole.
Yeah, it's the mystery hole, unfortunately. So, it's cold over there. TripleJumpShop.com for that. And there's a few things going on that you should be aware of. After Dark, released on the Monday just gone. We're celebrating our 6th birthday, or should that be anniversary?
Same thing.
In a couple of weeks' time. So there'll be a special Worst Games Ever stream. Will we do that on YouTube, do you think? Maybe?
Yeah, we normally
probably.
do.
We'll do that on YouTube. And there's a sleepover stream next week, so please be excited for that. We're playing a brand new sort of 4-player, well, it'll be 3 for us, co-op game where there's horrible monsters and we're doing our inept best to stay alive. We've been given an early access code. Can't say any more than that for the time being because I believe it's embargoed, but we will share that with you next week. It's very, very exciting. It's time now, though, for question 1.
It comes from Techiweo, who says, Hi, Bap.
Hello.
Hello.
With the US government assigning companies like Tencent and ByteDance onto a list of companies with alleged ties to the Chinese military, leading to the current banning of TikTok and Marvel Snap, which has now been at least temporarily revoked, how do you think this will affect Chinese investment in video game developers and publishers worldwide? Do you think this kind of backwards thinking will be taken on board in other countries who are trying to appease the US and their new presidential regime? And do you think that this could lead to other Chinese-backed and developed games like Black Myth Wukong or even Marvel Rivals to be eventually banned in the US? Love and kiss from Techi.
Thank you, Techiweo.
Thank you.
Got a bit of a write-up here. Obviously, the ByteDance aspect of this has been covered fairly widely because the TikTok story has been so big, and we also talked about it on our news video. But for those who missed the Tencent side of this story, Tencent branded a Chinese military company by US government, says Game Rant. Chinese tech conglomerate Tencent has been named on a list released by the Pentagon of companies with ties to China's military, the People's Liberation Army. Tencent's new status is the result of a 2020 executive order issued by then-President Donald Trump, who apparently is the savior of TikTok now. I don't understand how this works. Which prohibits United States investors from purchasing or investing in Chinese military companies and their subsidiaries. The executive order also requires divestment by investors from any such companies. Tencent, their shares fell by 6% when they were named on the 6th of January. They are the largest video game company in the world in terms of investments. And they have a market cap nearly 4 times that of their closest competitor, Sony, and They are, of course, the owner or partial owner of a number of successful studios, including Epic Games, Riot Games, Dying Light's Techland, Don't Nod of Life is Strange fame, Remedy Entertainment, and From Software. Tencent Games has also invested in dozens of other well-known developers and related companies like Discord.
Plus, they're also potentially going to buy Ubisoft.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the other thing as well. So there's an awful lot sort of tied to Tencent. This could be, we'll have to see how much backpedaling there is going to be now, because we've already seen that TikTok is suddenly okay again after one day offline. We saw the same thing with Marvel Snap. Yeah, not Marvel Rivals, Marvel Snap. I've not actually checked for an update. I assume they're now back.
I think they are back, but they also they're apparently shopping around for a new publisher, so this doesn't happen again.
I have a quote if you'd like to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Sure do.
Here we go. Second Dinner is the developer. They said, to make sure this never happens again, we're working to bring more services in-house and partner with a new publisher. This is the start of a new era for Marvel Snap.
Well, they have an example immediately of a developer thinking, oh, I want to maybe keep my hands off anything that might be related to China in terms of video game publishing. So, and of course, it's not all Chinese companies anyway, even in the eyes of the Department of Defense. It's not that they're saying any company based in China is the enemy, but it's ones that they suspect to have links to the military. But yeah, I think it's a shame to come from the success of Black Myth Wukong, last year, and we were sort of kind of celebrating the fact that, this is really cool that a game from Chinese studios doing so well and, across the world, not just in China. That's a big win for them. And then, kind of immediately hit by the absolute sucker punch of, oh yeah, we're taking down TikTok, and also another fairly successful game is also just going to be, catch a stray bullet in that. And now Tencent as well. It's a tricky thing because I don't know what the basis, what evidence they're working on in the Chinese Department of Defense to justify this. Of course, these companies are going to be denying having any links with the Chinese military. Maybe that's absolutely the case, and they're just saying this is like a complete misunderstanding. Why are you doing this? Or maybe that's just the line that they're told to give, and they do have those links. I am not informed enough to know, but it is a shame that there are all these knock-on effects, and I can see this potentially having a big impact on video games that come from China.
I think when you're a company as big as Tencent in a country like China, there's going to be some ties somewhere in your massive remit of games that will put you on the no-fly list, as it were, for US kind of situations. I don't like how much power the US have in most things, but specifically when it comes to just deciding what is good and is not good for the rest of the world is kind of one of the things that they like to do a lot, and we kind of just have to just listen to them while they do their own thing. It would be a shame for this to affect what is a growing Chinese games market out in the West. Obviously, a lot of Chinese games have huge player bases within China, but we're just seeing them kind of branch out and become a lot more popular in the West as well. We're seeing games that are owned and developed by Chinese studios that are kind of with Western IP, like Marvel games, that of course are going to do well around the world. And I think that it would be a big shame to see that start to dwindle when there are so many kind of very interesting ideas coming out of China. Like Black Myth Wukong, like you say, was a fantastic game and did so well and was, it's not like the most unique game in the world, but it was pretty standout when it comes to games in its genre. So I think this would be a shame to see companies shy away from working with other Chinese studios. I think it would be a shame to see potentially, if Tencent are not allowed to publish their games in the United States of America, I think that was going to have a big effect on the games industry as a whole, because like you say, they own so much and they have their hands in so many pots. So I think it's going to be difficult for Tencent as a whole and as an idea to be completely banned, because they are so intertwined with so many elements of gaming. And I think we will see a real shift if anything that Tencent is involved in, even remotely, gets banned from the United States. I think we're going to have a problem kind of worldwide with the industry, because we're going to see so many studios either having to completely distance themselves from Tencent and potentially having to find new buyers or backers, and then suddenly we've got more layoffs because they can't afford to have such a big enterprise anymore because Tencent don't own them and aren't giving them the money. So I think that's the most daunting part about this. Obviously, ByteDance must have agreed to something with the United States government to be allowed back into the country. All hail President Trump, as it were. But Tencent is an interesting one, and I think the most kind of daunting part of this situation because of how powerful and how big they are.
Yeah, I guess it depends whether it, if it's that they have a minority share in some of these companies, then perhaps it's like, well, you can still do business with, you can still buy products that they're publishing.
Yeah.
Versus maybe if they outright own something.
Well, for Marvel Snap, it was 2 steps removed. It was the developer, the publisher was then owned by ByteDance.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like 2 steps away from.
So if it does, as you say, if it gets to the point where it's like, no, any game that has like ties to Tencent, even if they're a minority shareholder in the publishing side of that venture, you're not allowed to do business in the US, then that would have a huge impact if it came to that.
Now, I can't pretend to understand geopolitics or trade sanctions or how any of that functions.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, if this story is being followed as I believe it is, or I'm following it as I believe I should be, the people involved in this particular banning also don't really understand how it's meant to work.
Yeah.
However, money talks. There are ways around this. Hopefully it will not come to any kind of product remotely affiliated with a Chinese company is banned, because that, quite frankly, would destroy several industries
all sorts
immediately.
Of industries, yeah.
But if something even close to that does come into effect, there are all sorts of ways that this is possible. There are actually lots of examples of the inverse happening with Western companies trying to trade in China.
Yeah.
So NetEase, for example, published World of Warcraft in China because Blizzard help.
As soon as you said Bethesda, that's the only game company that was going around in my head. I'm like, that must be right.
Bethesda's one of them, one of the companies, right? Blizzard, for whatever reasons, due to various laws and regulations within China, were not allowed to trade in the country directly, so they did it via NetEase. Similarly, back in the day, the GameCube was brought to China under the name the iQ Player via Chinese firm Wei Yan, which was a deal that Nintendo did with them in order to trade in the country. There's all manner of ways that this can possibly happen. You even only have to look as far back as like the PS3 era, Demon's Souls being an example, which was published by 3 separate publishers in different regions. There are all sorts of ways they could do this. If Tencent do buy Ubisoft, I imagine Ubisoft will still have a base in Europe that they will be operating out of. So that's probably fine? Question mark.
Kind of silly.
They're operating out of Europe.
I'm not complaining that is an option, because that's a good thing. I agree, but it just feels like laundering, doesn't it? It's like,
just pass it around the world.
I'll give you this money if you do this thing that I'm not allowed to do.
Yeah.
It's silly, and it shouldn't be like this. But at a base level, it is still, I imagine, still workable, even if, answering the question, it does end up impacting Chinese developers and publishers' willingness to do business outside of China. However, again, it's all about money. There's a huge market outside of China. China's a huge market in and of itself, but Marvel Snap in particular is extremely popular worldwide, and they would be foolish to leave that money on the table and just go, well, fine then, we're just going to do it in China. There will always be a way to make this work. And as was proven the case during, for example, the response to COVID during Trump's last presidency. The definition of essential business was massively stretched depending on who was friends with who and what kind of deals were made. There will always be a way through this if there's enough money involved. And fortunately or unfortunately, the video game business is massive, and there will always be enough money to grease the right palms to make this happen, even if it does end up being, well, NetEase can't publish their new MMO in the West, so they've done a deal with 2K, who are going to publish it for them, and apparently that's fine. There will be ways through it. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but it's all a bit daft.
I mean, it's written into the ultimatum. Like, the reason that TikTok went down is not because it was simply, we are banning TikTok full stop. It was divest or it will be banned. And they said, well, we're not just going to like just go along with what you say. So that's why that happened. But it's not like that America is saying, any Chinese company or product that we think is associated with the military, we want nothing to do with it, whatever, full stop. It's that, okay, in order to continue trading this product, you have to follow these steps, and this is what needs to happen with the money, and this is the way it needs to go. So there's no, it's not going to be that Tencent are just blacklisted full stop with no get out. They will be told, if you want to continue doing what you're doing, this is the strict process that needs to be taking place. They might choose not to go along with that, much like TikTok did for 24 hours. But it's not a complete like ban hammer from the first from the outset.
Yeah. As for the rest of the world, I'd be surprised if they follow suit. The EU is very keen on human rights, and if there is an aspect of security concerns and human rights concerns, that may play a role in what they do or do not decide to do. But I'd be very surprised if the European Union specifically follows this just because they want to appease the new government in the US and ensure that trade, whatever the flips, stay in good graces. I'd be surprised if that's purely the reason that they would do that. I think they would have their own reasons for it. So I would be surprised if we see other places doing something similar, but who bloody knows? The world is absolutely insane, and there's no predicting what's going to happen. However, if that does happen, I think you'll still get your Marvel snap somehow.
Probably.
Yeah.
What is this, Ashton?
Oh, it's just a new segment I thought we could chat in honor of President Trump being sworn in this week.
Okay. Yeah, do you want to tell us what it is?
Yeah,
It's called-
sure.
Oh, I'm so annoyed about it.
It's called, it was actually not what you think it was. It was Roman. It's called What We Playin.
Okay. It's What We Playin time. Time to talk about the games what we have been playing. Peter Austin, what have you been playing, please?
I've continued to play Star Wars Outlaws. I have not really progressed the main story, I don't think, at all since we spoke. I've played some more of I have now finished the thing that I've forgotten the name of again, but the kind of the card game gambling
Balatro.
casino. Yeah, the Balatro DLC is what I finished. That was really good, and there was a bit more to it than I kind of expected when I talked about it last week. So I played some more of that. I'm having a great time. I have also, though, played a game I can't really talk about because it's embargoed. Can I say the name of a game that we've sort of sometimes we do and don't say the name of what we're...
I think
sometimes it's in
I think
the
I know what you're
terms and
talking
sometimes
about.
it's not, yeah.
But if it's that, I imagine you're allowed to say the name as long as you promise not to describe the footage so clearly that people can picture it in their heads, because you're not allowed to show the game.
I have played the new Orcs Must Die.
I see.
I
was absolutely baffled then about what we were talking about.
What could it be?
I was like, what is it?
And I can't really talk about it till sort of next week. So, but I've played a little bit of that and had some fun.
Had a time. Full stop.
That's it. Zero. That's not a review. And no footage. And then also, just because I'm never far from my next retro style game playthrough, and I've been playing a PS5 game for the past several weeks, and I've just played a new Orcs Must Die game. I thought, I
hate how good this looks.
These aren't from the noughties. Gross. So I actually pulled off my shelf a Haven Call of the King.
Oh.
Just to sort of be sad again when I get to the end.
Disappointed by the end.
Why did they just chain him to a rock and leave him there and never do another game? Wow, what a terrible ending. So I've started that. I've been playing it. Been having a nice time. Been playing it legit as well. I've hooked up my PS2 again to the downstairs TV with an HDMI converter, and there's a bit of input lag because of the converter, which I'm sort of struggling with in a few specific scenarios. But for the most part, having a really nice time. And it actually looks pretty crisp. So I seem to have got the right device because there are so many crap
I've got one
party.
that made Time Splitters Future Perfect unplayable because it's so dark.
Right.
I don't know why. Doesn't matter what I do to the settings on the TV. The picture quality is fine.
Yeah.
There's no lag, seemingly. But it's so dark that you can't see what you're doing.
There's no single device, as far as I'm aware, that does everything correctly. It's either stuff's dark or the color is off, like this has like a green filter on it, or it looks really good, like mine does. Like super, it almost looks like it's been upscaled, like properly, which it probably hasn't, but it looks really nice. But there is like half a second of input lag.
Unless you pay the big bucks. There are some proper fancy ones.
Yeah, you can get like $100.
Who's going to be dropping the money on
really big things?
Just buy a CRT TV. At that.
Yeah, well, honestly, if I had room on my TV stand, I would have done that by now.
Ciaran recently went out looking for a CRT TV
they're hard to find.
and he said he couldn't find one.
That's why I never got rid of the one that we got from the dump for Vidiots because it does work. I can't change the channel or the volume, but it does still function, and they're really hard to find. You can't get them anymore.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to get a CRT. Like there are some early sort of plasma screen TVs that still have the right inputs in the back. I mean, actually, the TV we had before the one we've got now, which was, you know, a pretty modern-ish HD TV, did have one of the possible ways of like legitimately playing a PS2. So I used to just play my PS2 legit on my old TV, but then we had to upgrade it, and no longer can you get component or whatever it is.
You need to get one of those TVs that had a PS2 built into it.
Yeah.
Then you'd be sorted.
You certainly would.
Good luck fixing it, though.
That's what I've played this week. Ashton, what have you been playing?
I've played some more Ghost of Tsushima, the DLC. I could have finished the DLC, but I have been faffing about. The DLC, the areas in the DLC island are absolutely gorgeous. There's some parts of Iki that are just lovely to be in. There's like these big like purple blossom like ravines that run through where just like there's all these petals flying all over the place. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And then
You're itching to go to Japan.
I'm itching to go to Japan. I'm like, this is lovely. And then you walk like 2 foot to the left and there's just a guy hanging. And you're like,
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Could you not be hanged somewhere else?
Yeah, like this. I mean, if you're going to have to go out, at least you're going out looking at a gorgeous view.
True. I bet they're facing towards the woods or something.
Yeah. But it's a lot more focused on like Jin Sakai and like him and his past, and it's a lot kind of more of a look into like how he grew up and like his relationship with his father, and like his father died on that island that you kind of see throughout the game where he sees his father die, and it happened on that island, and you can kind of stumble upon the hut. Like I just accidentally walked over to it and he went, "My father died here," and I was like, "Here? It's not even a waypoint or anything. It's just a little shack on the beach. Like I didn't know it was this little house." But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I do need to finish it. That is my job for the weekend, is just to bash that out. But the other thing I've been playing, I'm back on my Sims bull flip.
Oh no.
I've been like, me and MB are looking at houses, and every time I see a house, I'm like, I'm gonna have to build this on the Sims so I can visualize what it's gonna look like with our stuff in it. So I've been like building all of these houses. I'm just like, this house will need a lot of work. Let me see if I can visualize what I want it to look like. And then I'm like decorating the walls, and I'm like, yeah, maybe this color in the house will look nice. And then I'm like, Ben, come and look at my house, the house that I built. And he's like, cool. None of this is not to scale. And I'm like, no, but it looks nice, right? And he's like, we couldn't afford this. I'm like, yeah, but look how nice the kitchen is. And he's like, yes, that's going to cost tens of thousands of pounds. But yeah, so I've been building loads of houses in The Sims this week. I think it's kind of helping me deal with the stress of house hunting. I'm like kind of sick of it, but I'm like, oh, build this in the house. Build this in the house.
Gotta go home and build a new house.
Gorgeous.
Well, there's the hanging body and the
Yeah.
You should build them in tiny glaze. Just go and live in a nice castle.
Yeah, well, yeah, that would be nice. Can't afford a castle though.
Yeah, sadly not.
No. But yeah, that's
On this wage,
I don't think so.
Peter and I, however, we've got 6 castles.
You should see their castles. Yeah, so that's what I've been playing this week. Building houses and killing boys.
Looking at houses, building houses.
Yeah.
Excellent.
What you played?
I played a little bit more Marvel Rivals with my friends. Did that last
You enjoying
Friday.
it, yeah?
And I think honestly, it's like exposure therapy, because I'm forcing myself to play it. I'm getting less cross when we lose. So I only broke 2 controllers last week by throwing them at the wall and stamping on them, which is better than the week before. It was 3.
3 holes in my wall now.
Exactly. I'm down on the week before, so that's good. I'm enjoying playing games with my friends, and I like it when we win, and I don't like it when we lose. Yeah. And I still refuse to play as any other hero but Star-Lord, and my friends keep begging me to play other heroes, and I'm like, I don't want to because my whole enjoyment is hinging on this. I refuse. I don't know some of these heroes, and I don't want to play as them, and then I get cross when Star-Lord doesn't do very well.
And says stupid stuff.
Says the same thing over and over. Someone's got to guard the galaxy. And when he does his ultimate, he goes, legendary. But from a distance, if you hear someone doing it across the map, I think it sounds like they're saying Ben and Jerry. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I am doing just fine. I always break even on kill to death at least, and I usually get far more kills than that. And I feel like I'm helping in that sense. It is not my genre at all, but I'm doing my best. So there we are. I have played some more Silent Hill 2, still in the hospital, but it's worse now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's way worse. You know in Silent Hill, the other world, where it's like rusty and horrifying, and the real world is foggy and horrifying. Yeah, I'm in the other world version of the hospital now, and it's way worse.
Are there still sexy nurses?
There's 2 varieties now. The one of them, when you kill them, they're not dead, and once you walk past them, they stand back up and come after you, and I love that. That's really good. And there's still the mannequin people who are just legs. It's just legs. Have you seen them, Peter?
It's like, I've seen.
You would love that.
That's the one that Pyramid Head does like weird stuff with.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's just legs. It's 2 legs. And then 2 legs.
2 legs upside down.
And no head. And it walks around like this. But it's one of the only monsties that doesn't set off your little proximity thing. So you'll be walking around a corner and it'll just go,
legs.
And like leg you. And that is like the sole source of jump scares in this game for me at the moment, is because these horrible leg monsters are just always hiding around the corner.
But when you see Pyramid Head, I think for the first time, isn't it? He's like, he's sort of in a cupboard with one of the legs things, just, I think, kind of being a bit sexy with it, but also quite aggressive.
It's left to the imagination, but none of it is good to imagine.
Cool.
It's pretty horrible.
One of my irrational fears is of mannequins. Like I wouldn't scream if I saw one in a shop, but if I was in a dark room with a mannequin, absolutely not. That's horrible. When I was playing Little Nightmares 2.
I was just going to say that.
With that mannequin, I couldn't even get past it. I was so scared. I was like, no, this is not.
It's one of my least
my
favorite
bag.
things in video games is where you turn around and they've moved.
It's when they do that and then
you
they
walk into a room, into the mannequin storage room.
There's always
and
one.
you're like,
There's always one.
I was like, I've seen this before and it's not good.
I hate that. There's a bit at the end of Arkham Knight that's like that. Have you played?
I've seen the clip of the mannequins moving.
Where you're playing as the Joker.
Yeah.
Spoilers for a 10-year-old game, by the way. Playing as the Joker at the end, you're in Batman's mind or something, and then there's just loads of statues of Batman, but they all move towards you when you turn around.
Circle around.
It's horrible. Yeah, it's really scary. You're being stalked by Batman. But so I played a bit more of that. Played loads of Metaphor, and I have got like acute Metaphor sickness now. I think I'm getting a bit of the Metaphor Refantasio fatigue because I really have been playing a lot of it, and I'm in the final month of the game now, so the end is in sight.
Right.
And I think it's a spectacular game. Really, really like it. I think it's cool. The themes it plays. A few of the twists were sort of telegraphed dozens and dozens of hours before they actually happened, and I was like, I bet that happens, and then it did happen. But JRPGs aren't exactly known for their nuance a lot of the time. But yes, that some of the music is just like, I can't not hear it when I close my eyes now. It's that kind of thing where
the Tetris effect.
Oh my god, I can't. So I'm nearly done with that game. It's great, but as with a lot of Atlas RPGs, God, it goes on for ages. So nearly done with that. And the last thing I've played a little tiny bit of, courtesy of Ashton and MB, is Half-Life Alyx, which I did stream this week, but I did have a little test of beforehand, although that test ended up betraying me when it was time for the stream because it started running like absolute crap as soon as I started
It's because
streaming
of
it.
OBS just absolutely tanks it.
Yeah, OBS hates it for whatever reason. And if you're unfamiliar, OBS is our streaming software that we use. It's really good. I wish it ran a bit better. I know that's not the game's fault, but in spite of that, I think it's fantastic.
So it ran all right when you was like testing it?
Yep, it ran all right when I was doing a record test as well. And I think I know what the problem is. It's because I'm capturing the audio as a separate source in OBS. And so I have to tab out. And when I tab back in, it's running like crap.
I think you need to, instead of capturing the headset visuals, capture the Steam VR window, which is like the display that comes up on your monitor.
I am doing that.
I don't think you are.
Am I not?
Because you wouldn't see the chat window, and you'd also see Alex's health bar at the bottom, which you can't see.
Okay.
There's like a flat gamer version
Oh, right.
that comes up on your screen when you're like in VR. So if Ben's playing VR, I can see his view.
I tell
on
you
the
what
screen.
I've been capturing. I'm going to talk technical now. I'll tell you what I've been capturing because it was the advice of like a forum thread and Reddit or whatever. In the Oculus VR settings, there's like a mirror application that you can think, which is what the person who's playing VR can
exactly
see.
what they can see. Yeah.
But you're saying that the one for Half-Life, Alex, specifically is really good.
There's a Steam VR thing that basically is just a flat version which has Alex's health bar and subtitles as if you're playing it with a controller.
Okay.
Which the audience can see, and they won't be able to see the chat window when you turn around, and it should run better than capturing it directly from the headset.
Interestingly.
Yeah, interestingly. But yeah, Ben says he can help you with it.
Sweet, that's great. I need some help. I'm flying blind here. That might be the thing. The only reason I did it the other way is because the conventional wisdom was sometimes with the version that's displayed natively on screen when you're playing, it's not always the best. Like half the screen is taken up with weird HUD and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, cool. I'll consider that. I'll give that a go.
But also, hopefully, we'll find a way to make it run better because it is such a fantastic game and it's absolutely haunting in places.
Yeah,
you
can't
will
wait.
scream like little baby.
I don't want to do that. I don't want that. I was struggling so hard with the pull items towards me with the
You
gravity
gotta
glove.
flick it.
Well, the thing is, I couldn't see what I was targeting. So he was going, "That's it. You've got one targeted now." And I'm like, I can't see. And it's in an outside area, and like it's highlighted very subtly with orange when you got. And so I don't know what it was a whole ordeal.
Yeah.
But it's very good, and I'm looking forward to playing more because it's great. And what's his name? Russell is very as the kids would say, Wheatley coded.
Yes.
So he's like
He's voiced by Rhys Darby.
I thought he was, yeah. So he's like a really lovely comedic presence
Kiwi
that sort of
voice.
cuts through the tension a bit, and I'm enjoying that. So looking forward to playing more, and hopefully it'll run fine next time. But that's what I'll be playing.
Well, now it's time for question 2, which comes from Rock Reese. Hi, Bap.
Hello.
After discovering about the God of War live service game being cancelled alongside so many other really random live service games, it seems evident why Sony have taken so long getting their first-party games out this generation. Luckily, all these cancellations represent the pivot from the path that Geordie Jim Ryan set PlayStation on. But I now feel like this has been a detriment of this generation. Imagine if Naughty Dog could have been an additional 3 or 4 years deeper into development of their next game rather than wasting time on a live service game, since they make one game a decade. So my question to you all is this. Do you think PlayStation have some trust to rebuild despite the bangers they've already put out this year, or this gen? Or, thank you, is this probably nonsense since they won Game of the Year last year?
Good question.
Would you like to know all about all the games that have been released, shut down, cancelled, unreleased,
Yes.
so on?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Updated list.
So there's 17 live service / multiplayer games that Sony have announced / done something with over the last few years.
Okay.
Number 1 is Destruction All-Stars by Lucid Games. That got released. Then Gran Turismo 7 also got released. And Helldivers 2, we know did very well, got released.
A live service game? I suppose sort of.
Sort of. It's a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Started so well.
Yeah, and then it gets red and orange and pink. Concord, unreleased. Fair Game,
Concord was
$sign
released.
is a TBD.
De-released.
De-released, yeah. Unreleased.
Okay, right, I get you. Yeah.
Unreleased after it released.
Yeah.
Fair Game $ has yet to be confirmed. Horizon, as in like a release date. Horizon multiplayer, different than the Horizon MMORPG, which got cancelled this week, is also still TBD with Guerrilla Games. And Bungie's game Marathon is also still apparently being produced over at Bungie. Then we've got the Horizon MMO, which was cancelled yesterday. The Media Molecule live service game is currently unannounced, as is Bungie Gummy Bears.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, what is that?
Yeah, Jason Blundell's LA studio game is also currently unannounced as well. We've got The Last of Us Online multiplayer, which is cancelled. Twisted Metal got cancelled. Spider-Man The Great Web, which was the Spider-Man multiplayer, got cancelled. London Studios live service game obviously got cancelled, and the studio was killed. And then the God of War live service game by Blue Point Games was cancelled, and Ben Studios military live service game was also cancelled.
Oh boy.
That's 17 games, of which 3 have released and stayed released.
Of wasted resources there.
I mean, we talked about it on the news on Monday. In 2023, Jim said that there was going to be 12 multiplayer games launched by 2025. As of right now, over half of those 12 games that he may have been talking about at the time have been killed, either before they were born or just moments after they were born.
Yeah.
So it's not been a great few years for Sony because of their shift in content.
No, it's not. I mean, I completely taking out of the equation the studio closures associated and the job losses and generally just the wasted work that people will have poured their heart and souls into. Taking that very human aspect out of it, I'm very pleased that Sony has seemingly decided that maybe maybe concentrating on live service as a huge piece of our pie going forward is not a good idea. Bless you. I'm sure they will still continue to make a few live service games over the next few years and decades. I suspect they've not sort of internally said, we're not doing any more at all, full stop. However, to go from that many and to cull it right down, clearly there's been some kind of internal memo, or more than a memo, great big bushy discussions where they've said, this was a completely wrong direction to go in. We've invested so much in this, and I think we're wrong to like focus so much of our output on this going forward.
Yeah.
You know, it seems that we can perhaps now look forward to seeing a bit more from Sony in terms of them announcing, if not single player games, then okay, games with a slightly more traditional multiplayer aspect that is not necessarily what you'd call live service. But I agree with Rock Reese. I think it is such a, as you said, Ben, as well, it's such a waste of resources and a waste of time. And yeah, Naughty Dog could have potentially been 3 or 4 years ahead on what's it called, Intergalactic.
Yeah.
Yes, the Heretic Prophecy.
Yeah,
really
it's that
catchy
memorable name. And, you know, likewise, Insomniac, for example, I assume they were the ones developing the Spider-Man multiplayer game and not some other smaller studio. So, you know, they could have been further along with Wolverine, presumably.
Well, Guerrilla Games are making the Horizon multiplayer instead of making me Horizon 3. Cowards.
So I'd have considered it a waste of resources, even if these games did actually come out in the first place anyway, because I just think that we don't need this many more live service games. But to put those resources in and then not even get a game out of it, it is a catastrophic waste. But in terms of strategy, and again, taking out the human fallout, I am at least pleased that clearly Sony is completely backpedaling on a huge investment in live service.
I think the thing that's the most embarrassing for Sony is the release of the PlayStation 5 Pro, and the main complaint being, well, what are we going to play on it? There's no games coming out.
Yeah.
I think like that's the thing about like that's where I feel like their strategy hasn't panned out in the same way that they were hoping, in that the hardware team have worked hard on making a PlayStation 5 Pro, and then there's no games for it. There's nothing on the horizon like super close that's coming out on the PlayStation 5 Pro that is going to push it at all. And then you've also got all of these massive big hitter games that have been harbored by having to be doing other things. Like Bungie, I saw an article this week saying that the devs at Bungie really want to make a single player game, but are stuck making Destiny spin-offs forever and all of eternity. I think the thing about it that's the most difficult is that looking back at how successful PlayStation have been games-wise in a lot of the generations before, and I'm not saying that there isn't any games for PlayStation 5. We've had lots of games for PS5. It's been really good, and we've seen them use the software really well, the hardware and the software really well. But I think it's really petered off in the last 2-3 years. In 2020 we saw so many games launching for PlayStation 5. There was so much coming, so much to look forward to, and then once all of those games had released, there was nothing. There was one game a year that was really ticking all the boxes that were first party studios. We've had other games, of course, coming to PlayStation 5 that aren't first party studios, but I think from a PlayStation perspective of games that they are innovating and doing themselves has really just fizzled out in the last few years. And I do think that's because they focused all of this stuff on multiplayer games. I'm glad maybe that things are shifting and that hopefully Sony will go back to doing what they're really good at, which is these single player narrative driven games. And I like a multiplayer game. I love a co-op game, something like Borderlands. I'm more than happy for them to branch out into that world of gaming and see what they can do with games that can be played with friends. But I just think that it's a shame that, like you say, all this time and effort has been put into this, and that it makes them look so bad that all of their games are cancelled and that none of their studios are working on anything that anyone wants.
Yeah, it just feels like it for a while we've been saying it feels like nothing's coming out, and that was before the extra cancellations we've had over the past few weeks, so yeah, I didn't really answer Rock Reese's part of the question, which is do we think they've got trust to rebuild? I think it just looks like what is there to play on the PS5, and especially as you say on the Pro. There's nothing to necessitate buying a Pro at the moment, or pretty much. I mean, you, maybe if you just want a general upgrade, then fine, but yeah, to have a big hitter coming out sort of alongside it would have been a great thing to do.
I'm trying to think what PlayStation 5 first party games that are announced that are coming out. We know that Wolverine,
Ghost of Yotei.
Is it Yotei or Yotai?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Whoa.
It sticks.
Startling.
Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, we don't know when that's coming, but that is a first party game.
Yeah.
So 3?
Did they give a year? Did they say 2026 for
One of the
Intergalactic?
live
Did they say
service
nothing at all?
games.
No.
We got Payday or Fair Game, not Payday, Fair Games.
Fair Game, $sign.
Yeah, one of them.
Marathon. Those are games that are potentially coming for PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
But when you think that it's maybe 3 games that are single player, and then 5 games total that we know are coming out on PlayStation 5 this year. Tonight, Xbox are talking about 4 games that are coming out on Xbox.
Yep.
And that's just 4 games they're talking about right now. They've got loads more that they've told us about. And I'm not saying Xbox have had a great track record of games, but when it comes to getting people hyped and always having the next thing to look forward to, Sony just haven't got that at the moment.
And actually, I think Astro Bot was probably for them. I think it might have been a bit of a happy accident in terms of how successful it was.
It's definitely the exception and not the rule.
They did not. I don't think Sony thought at the time this could win Game of the Year. They might have thought this is a really great, fun little thing. Loads of people are going to enjoy this, but it's not traditionally the kind of. Well, I suppose you look at something like It Takes Two. Maybe it is the kind of game that can win Game of the Year. But you look more at your Final Fantasies or your Black Myth Wukongs, that you expect games like that more to win Game of the Year. So I don't think they expect it to do as well as it did.
No.
They have bungled this so hard. They have really dropped the ball. It is embarrassing. If Jim Ryan was still there, he would have a lot to answer
Jim
for.
Ryan is turning in his grave right now. He said, stop cancelling all my
He's not
games."
dead. He's just in Newcastle.
His career grave,
I think on the whole, it sounds daft to say because we've had God of War Ragnarok, we've had Demon's Souls, we've had Spider-Man 2, we've had Forbidden West. We have had lots of great games, but if say the generation is going to come to an end in 2 or 3 years, realistically, are we going to get the Naughty Dog game in that time?
Well, yeah, I
maybe
don't know.
not.
Yeah.
We should hopefully get Wolverine and Ghost of Yo second syllable,
I don't
whatever
know.
it is.
No tie.
But like, if you look on the whole and compare it to previous generations, I think you would say, wow, that's not as good. We didn't get the steady stream of heavy hitters. There were years during the PS4 where we would have multiple exclusives in the same year, one or two. That's usually what they'd aim for. And they would always be world beaters every time. That has simply not happened here because of just mismanagement. Yeah. And the mismanagement here isn't the sort of mismanagement we've spoken about with Xbox in the past, for example, in regards to no one is keeping an eye on these studios. How the hell did Redfall happen? But rather in the decisions made at the top for what they were going to be working on next were just completely ill-informed, trend-chasing nonsense. We've spoken about it to death. The ship now is finally turning, which is good. It's going to take a while, though, for the developers to, change gears and switch up what they're working on and so on. It would be nice for them to have to rebuild some faith, but unfortunately, as we've spoken about before, we're in the gaming bubble. Most people use their PlayStation 5 to play third-party games, and have you heard about that Spider-Man game? They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They're probably none the wiser that there's been a bit of a drought and all sorts of crappy games are being worked on. They have no clue, and so because Sony is still making money hand over fist, they don't have to apologize. They don't have to make things up. I would love it if they did. I'd like them to be a sort of more customer-facing company again, put some faces out there that people can relate to, be a bit nicer, maybe bring back PSX again, the PlayStation Experience thing they used to do. I think what we really need, though, and this does fly in the face of what we often talk about in terms of games being announced too soon, is that we need a big PlayStation showcase. We need to know what to expect from PlayStation. We need to know what it is that they're actually working on, because at the end of the day, while it is a massive waste of resources, and Sony Bend have been working on this project for years and that's been cancelled, the truth is that these developers are big and they have multiple teams. And while, yes, it is obviously still a waste of resources and it will have impacted what the other teams are working on, they will have had teams that are working on the kind of games we would expect to get from Sony. Yeah. So it's not like all work on that stuff has ceased. It may have been impacted, may have slowed down, but this stuff probably still is in development at some stage along the, along the development process. So it'd be nice to know or be reassured that, yes, okay, Sony Bend did have this live service game cancelled, but they are halfway through production on Days Gone 2. Yeah. They're not. Apparently, I don't think that's going to happen. But it would be nice to see, even if I think it's unlikely.
Yeah. I've just looked it up, and there isn't even a release year or anything for Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet.
Right.
It's just...
Is it Prophet?
Prophet, yeah.
Okay. I thought it was
The
Prophecy,
thing is, even if it happens to be in the unlikely event that in the next year or two, or say 2 years, that it's nearing completion, at that point, if we are looking at potentially the next generation, they might hold it back deliberately and say, well, let's make this a launch title for the next PlayStation. So even if it is ready to go in 2 years' time, if they're also considering PS6 in about 2 years' time, then they might say, well, we'll just hold on to this one.
Yeah.
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 I would thoroughly recommend, if people are interested, lots of headlines have come from it, but it's a very interesting chat regardless, that people go and listen to Kind of Funny Games Greg Miller's chat with Shuhei Yoshida. And you'll have read a lot of the headlines anyway, but it's really illuminating, very interesting to hear about his experiences, not only with this stuff, but also his whole history being at PlayStation since the very beginning. If you have an interest in that, go check it out. It's very good. Oh, can you smell that?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh,
It's a bit
gross.
stinky peculiar in here.
My eyes hurt.
Bit weird. Smelling. Bit weird smelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And smells like news.
Well,
Oh,
that's good, because it's weird news.
Oh.
It's weird news time for some weird video game news. If you would like to get a shout out at this point in the podcast, you can do so by submitting some weird news to us under the relevant social media post that goes out on a Wednesday. I got a bit lost in the shuffle there. I forgot I didn't know where my words were going. However, if you'd like to guarantee a shout out, you need to go to patreon.com/Team TripleJump. Support us at the appropriate tier and become a podcast producer just like
Michael Pendlebury,
Huge Ass,
Andy Scott,
Chip Thompson's Thumbs,
Eric Siu,
Nexus Polaris,
Blake Thomas,
Nicole Hansen,
Great Giggity,
GY Goliath,
Gabrielle Philippink,
and Big Money Bobby Vegas. Thank you so much, podcast producers. We appreciate you all very much indeed. Thank you. Well, you got Peter,
Well, you got Peter, please.
Well, you got Peter.
Story that was sent to you. All right, guys.
What is it?
Just pipe down.
Why won't you tell us?
It's a story that was sent to us by Connor Bennett at cbennett_12 on Twitter. Top follower. ITV, this is according to Eurogamer, ITV has a smash hit Hell's Kitchen game with 20 million players, but it's on Roblox.
Weird.
The subheading is Live and Let Fry.
Don't like that one.
No, I don't.
I quite like it.
Well, I would like it if it was in any way James Bond related or Paul McCartney related, this story. But you can't just say live and let fry when the actual idiom is live and let live.
You can do kitchen frightmares. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, nightmares already.
But it's
Well,
Hell's
yeah.
Kitchen.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not Kitchen Nightmares.
It's a different
Oh,
one.
yeah, it's Hell's
Kitchen is the game show where he got loads of chefs on and
Oh,
they
right.
cook for an actual kitchen and he shouts at them.
But this is Hell's
Whereas
Kitchen.
It's
Kitchen
flipping
Nightmares,
raw.
Kitchen Nightmares is the one where he goes out to other people's restaurants and tells them
And
that
there's
it's
like
My
a-
crap.
main issue
a
with
pigeon
this
flying
is that
around.
he looks like weirdly buff on the
Yeah, he
picture.
does look
Why is
kinda
he-
sexy.
Why is he so massive?
Because he used to be like that.
Did he?
Yeah, he used
Well,
to
with
be
no
buff.
nose. He's got no nose.
Wait, it's a Roblox man. You wouldn't put a nose on a Lego
He's a
man,
Death
would you?
Eater.
I do. I put on all of them. Sculpt them in.
This was written by Victoria Kennedy. And the story goes,
Yeah.
Competitive ITV show Hell's Kitchen is now blowing up as an experience in Roblox with a cartoony version of Gordon Ramsay at the fore. Since its debut last month, ITV's first ever Roblox experience has had over 20 million visits from aspiring chefs and boasts 450,000 daily active users happy to have the show's celebrity chef express disdain at their dishes. I can't believe, I know Roblox is big, but that's mental.
It is mental.
As with Hell's Kitchen on telly, those who participate in the official Roblox experience will be popped into either the red or the blue team. And while I haven't seen word that Ramsay will call users an idiot sandwich, his Roblox counterpart still shares his disappointment if food isn't up to snuff. I really hope he just swears at all these children.
You flipping donkey.
Yeah. By blending the unique essence of Hell's Kitchen with the immersive possibilities of Roblox, we're offering players a fresh way to engage with the brand and create their own culinary adventures.
She's playing it.
Just looking.
Claimed Ashley Lewis, boss of the experience's developer Metavision.
My God.
What the hell is that?
Oh wow, that's interesting HUD. Oh,
Oh, you're in there.
I didn't know you had
there you.
Roblox.
Yeah, that's what I was playing Dress to Impress on.
You
Oh,
still
yeah.
got Robux. Did you hear that? You know she bought Robux the other day.
Only £3.
I don't know if
Oh,
I
we didn't
heard
even
that
talk
you-
about Skid Mark Matthews. She was being a
Skid
proper
Mark
boy
Matthews.
racer last night.
What?
On the
Oh
way
my
home.
God. My car doesn't go.
Right.
I was
My
waiting to
car
cross-
doesn't go on
Yeah.
first gear, and I was like trying to pull off, and it's such a terrible car, and it just would not go in first gear, and it proper revved, and then I looked to my left, and there's Ben.
I was waiting to cross the road. I just had. And she's like wheel
What, the
spinning.
wheel spin?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just pulling away, and I looked
It
in the
does
car,
not
and
go.
she looked absolutely mortified. And the woman next to me
looked at
started laughing as well.
I looked at Ben, I was like, oh.
You went, oh.
I was like,
And then-
Oh no.
And then you pulled away. She just pulled up, went, and then zoomed off up the road.
so bad.
Well, it did go though.
It doesn't go,
Or did you have to
man.
pull off in second gear?
I basically have to put
It was
Hell's
really
Kitchen
funny.
is closed on me. Yeah, it basically doesn't go in first
can't
gear,
believe
and I
I
have
forgot
to
to bring it up
basically.
earlier.
I was just hoping that you weren't going to
No,
bring it up.
I went home and I told my girlfriend. I was like, it was really funny. I was smiling all the way up the street.
It was really funny. I was proper giggling as well because I thought it was hilarious. But my car fully just doesn't go.
Oh no.
Sometimes I'm at a roundabout, and if I'm trying to pull off and like I don't know, get some oomph behind me. I have to it just goes and then goes, and I'm
God.
cool. But I was like, how embarrassing.
So
your
good.
tire tread is all right.
It's fine, yeah. Like I had it checked a little while ago and it was totally fine. And I literally asked them, I was like, my car keeps doing this. Is it because the wheels are like really like worn down? He was like, no, your tires are fine. I was like, what?
It was just looking in and was like, that's Ashton. And just the look of horror on your face.
I saw you and I thought, lol, there's Ben. And then it just happened and I thought, oh.
She looked so embarrassed.
Oh my God. And then you're telling the world now.
I wanted to tell the world
My face
earlier.
is proper flushed as well now.
So I nearly texted Ashton afterwards and just went, bloody skid Mark Matthews over here, boy racer, but I forgot.
Oh,
I just have a really terrible car.
It's
Like,
so funny,
so
though.
bad.
Can you even do hill starts then? If you're first
Yeah.
Yeah, she can go down them. It's
Yeah.
fine.
I can go up, but it's just really noisy.
Okay.
Literally, the wheels just were spinning and just not going.
I heard.
I don't know why, man. It's so
gosh.
weird.
It was brilliant. It made my day.
It was really funny.
Well,
Sorry, do carry on.
Developer Metavision says it's great. Metavision. We've got an exciting 2025 roadmap for the experience. Can't wait to show the community what we have in store next.
It wouldn't let me play it.
Well, Ashton, if you fancy taking to the kitchen yourself, you can check out the Hell's Kitchen Roblox experience here, and there's a hyperlink.
Well, I have Roblox installed on my work PC, so maybe I'll play it at lunchtime.
Look at this nervous, like worried chef being
Oh my God.
loomed over by Gordon.
He's being loomed over.
He said it had 21.2 million players on the actual thing.
God,
How crazy.
Insane. Oh, actually, the article does continue, but I don't know if there's anything. Towards the end of the year, Roblox announced further tools designed to improve the safety of, of its game.
I don't believe it. It's kind of messed up that it was the jumping off point to talking about Boy Racer Matthews was I was trying to dob you in for Robux, and then my brain made the connection like, I've got another thing to dob her in for. I'm going to do it now.
All Ben ever does is just try and find ways to embarrass me on the internet.
Yeah. I'm pretty good
But
at
yes, I did buy Robux. I spent £4 on some Robux for a stream.
For a stream?
It was for stream.
Okay, it was for work.
Yeah, it was for work.
You
Probably
gonna
claim it back.
Invoice the company?
No,
for it?
because I don't think Adam would let me. He's like, what's this £4?
Robux.
I think he'd be like, we need to have a conversation.
Anyway, that was great and weird. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
I have some weird news. It was submitted by Ryan Swartz on Facebook. Top fan, no relation.
No relation.
From The Gamer, written by Joshua Coulson. And you guys have seen this. So, Square Enix is giving one Final Fantasy fan a feather-covered chocobo Steam Deck even.
Steam Deck.
It's so ugly. It's got feathers on it. It's got like a feather quiff, and it's furry.
It's definitely going to overheat.
You guys remember the Sonic controllers?
Yes.
It's like that, but yellow. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes to PC this week. Not only that, but Square Enix have already confirmed the middle game in the remake trilogy will be Steam Deck verified, meaning you'll be able to play it on the go. To celebrate that somewhat surprising achievement, Square has created some very limited edition Chocobo Steam Decks and will be giving at least one of them away to a lucky Final Fantasy fan. Square revealed the celebratory Steam Deck last week. Not only has the studio covered Valve's handheld console in yellow fur, but there's also a crown of matching yellow feathers on top and some brown straps around the corner to make it look like your Final Fantasy Steam Deck is wearing a bridle. Only 3 of these Chocobo Steam Decks exist, and it's unclear what Square plans to do with them. Well, 2 of them. We know at least one of the fluffy handheld consoles will be given away to a fan. Special Effect, a charity that helps gamers with physical disabilities overcome hurdles that might prevent them from playing their favourite games, have teamed up with Final Fantasy's creators to give away one of the Chocobo Steam Decks.
They follow me on Blue Sky if you want an in.
Whoa.
If you want to win that.
Special Effect haven't revealed what exactly its followers will need to do to be in with a chance of winning the 3-of-a-kind Steam Deck, although it has noted that the lucky winner will actually receive 2 consoles. That's because, due to the Steam Deck running hot, even when not covered in feathers, it's not recommended you use the Chocobo version to play games. At least, yeah. It's kind of dream for you.
Off, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, that's what someone did to the Sonic.
Yeah,
they just peeled it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
At least not for any longer than a few minutes at a time. So the contest winner doesn't end up with nothing more than an albeit very rare Steam Deck they can't use. They will also receive a regular version of the console to play games on.
I mean, that's nice that they're doing that, because I wouldn't necessarily say they'd be obliged to also provide an extra Steam Deck that works.
They're just giving them a bomb, basically.
Yeah.
One thing
Here you go, use
Fire
that.
hazard.
See how long
Do
it
not
lasts
turn this
before
on.
it explodes.
One thing I really like is, and we talked about this in the work chat, is that in the tweet where there's a video of it, it's very clearly just they've like rotoscoped the game onto the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Because it's like that, it just kind of pops in and it's just playing the game.
It's
And
different
there's no
colours
way
to the
that
rest of
thing's
the
gonna,
screen.
and the person holding it is holding it so still in front of the camera so that they can. But yeah, there's no way that thing's gonna play Final Fantasy VII without all the feathers just melting off or catching fire.
But you could win it.
You could.
You can win it. I've got some weird news.
I bet you bloomin' have.
I do, and it's from Aaron Prestelsky at Aaron Prestelsky on Twitter. This is from Games Radar, written by Catherine Lewis, and Catherine says, after 3 weeks and 115 attempts, Elden Ring Sicko becomes the first in the world and probably the last to complete a no-hit run at uncapped New Game Plus 1000.
What does that mean?
So with there's a subtitle
I know
that
what
says,
New Game Plus is.
Yeah.
with New Game Plus scaling limits gone, every boss had over 500,000 health. So usually in New Game Plus, depending on what you do with it, you can either just play through the rest of the game again, or you can play it on a different difficulty or what have you. In From Software games, what it usually means is everything is more powerful. So you go in with your character, but everything's harder.
Like relative to your character.
Or just relative to
Or
what they
just
were
they've set it
in
to-
regular game,
Right,
new
yeah.
game, and then it scales up every time over and over. So people will say like, I've just completed, like when I streamed Demon's Souls the other year at Christmas, I did it on like New Game Plus 4.
Right, I see.
For example, because I'd finished it 4 times. Almost 3 years after its release, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Elden Ring players had already pushed challenge runs to their absolute limit. But one streamer continues to prove that's not true with their recent first in the world New Game Plus 1000 no-hit run, one that they think might never be replicated. We've been covering scum nuts antics for some time now.
Sicko. Scum nuts.
I actually love, one of my favorite things about video game journalism is when like it's a really serious article and then the guy's called scum nuts.
Yeah.
Or like
Scum nuts.
ball sweat.
Yeah.
And they're like, we've been following ball sweat 69. And someone has to type that out and be like,
They do.
I'm
This
writing
is
an article
real-
about
this
this
is news.
person.
For some time now, and whether the streamer has been slaying a ridiculously beefed up
Scum
Mesmer without taking a single hit, or charging through the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC modified to be harder than it was ever supposed to be, there's been a recurring theme. Uncapped New Game Plus 1000. Despite its reputation for making hard games, developer From Software normally takes a bit of pity on players keen to start multiple New Game Plus runs of Elden Ring, because while it'll get continually harder with each new run for a while, New Game Plus 7's difficulty is the limit.
Right.
Well, things don't get any trickier than that. That is, if you don't remove the limits, like Scum Nut, however. As the streamer explains, the result at New Game Plus 1000 is every single boss in the game having over 500,000 HP and incredibly high resistances, making them ridiculously robust as well as super deadly. With that in mind, you can understand why Scumnut says this latest challenge run win is the first in the world, probably the last, because it's hard to imagine anyone else having the fortitude of Scumnuts. It's hard enough to get through a normal Elden Ring no-hit run since there's so much that can go wrong at any given point, but those massive enemy health bars also ensure that no fight can be over in a flash. Skills like Black Flame Tornado, which you can see Scumnut use in the clip below, help since they deal a consistent percentage of the enemy's health. Damage? But I can't state enough how difficult this whole thing is, even though you wouldn't think so watching Scumnut destroy Elden Beast on the winning run.
What was it, 120 attempts, 126 attempts or something? Did you say?
115.
115. Imagine, like, some of those, I bet he got really far through. And then it was, 3/4 of the way through the game, he just takes a hit in a boss fight. And it's
Start
like,
again.
All it takes.
starting again.
It's not getting to the end. You've got to have a flawless run.
Yeah.
While that run was flawless, it still took quite a bit of effort to get to that point. That was the 115th attempt, although Scumnut points out it only took 3 weeks to get there. It took me like 3 months to finish Elden Ring the first time. That's why they call me the Elden Ring sicko, Scumnut proclaims.
Great.
There you are.
Cool. Do you think that like if he fell off something and took full damage, they had to start again?
I think so. Is that hit?
Because you wouldn't be
don't
hit,
know.
but you did take damage, so
That is a good question. I
Guess
have
I'll
no idea.
just have to contact Scumnuts.
I'm sure
and
Scumnut would be
Dear
happy to fill you
Mr.
in
Scumnuts,
on what's
big
okay.
fan of what you do.
Mr. Scumnuts.
Bring me some scum. I'm better than bringing me some nuts, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that there's not something in the game that is essentially unblockable, undodgeable. Like, some kind of effect where fire spits out everywhere, and it's intended that you will take a hit, and then you have to heal or whatever. Like,
There might
it's amazing
be-
that there's no moment in that you can get through the game without being hit by anything at all.
There might be certain rules
Yeah.
that are allowed. So I can think of a couple of things. Like there's a gimmick boss fight in the first Dark Souls where you have to be killed. Like you get one hit killed, and then you get teleported to another part of the map that you haven't been to yet. Like that's the whole point. So I imagine in a no-hit run,
so
that would be
It's
permitted.
part of the game, yeah.
Or in certain boss fights where like the floor gives way and you drop down to another area, you might take a bit of fall damage. I imagine that would be allowed
Exactly,
as well.
yeah.
But even the first boss in Elden Ring, which 99% of players die to because you're sort of supposed to, he's going to be killing that and just dodging it perfectly. So yeah, mental. Well done, Scumnut.
Yeah.
Well done.
Great job.
Well scum.
Well scummed.
Oh, nutted.
It's now time for the big discussion. It's big discussion time for the big video game discussion that this week comes courtesy of Ryan Swartz and also Connor Bennett.
Both did weird news there.
Oh, did
They did,
they?
yeah, I was just thinking that.
Did Connor ask a similar question?
Connor asked about the same thing, yeah.
Okay, so Ryan begins.
But with a different energy. I'll tell you about it in a minute.
Oh.
Okay, Ryan begins, was going to submit a similar question to Connor's, but with a slightly different take/perspective. Historically, the price of games hasn't really increased all that much. Average prices were about $40 for PS1 era games, $50 on PS2, $50 to $60 on PS3 and 4, and now $60 to $70 on PS5. Apologies for the PS-centric references and US dollars. It's all I know. So I guess a different spin on the same basic question. What are your thoughts on paying a little more, yes, maybe even up to $80 to $100 for a massive AAA release like GTA 6? I know it's a slippery slope, but if I'm going to get that much content and paying more helps ensure people don't get laid off, I think I'd probably pay it for certain event-level games. To me, it seems like something to be taken on a case-by-case basis, meaning I'm not going to pay more than $60 for Life is Strange 4, but I'd happily pay $100 for Red Dead Redemption 3. Your thoughts? You say you have...
Connor just basically asked very similar, but with the idea of price raises are probably a bad thing.
Right. I've got a bit of context here. Obviously, you guys talked about it on the news this week, so you can go watch that video. But here's a write-up from Wesley Yin Poole at IGN. There is, in quotes, hope among some within the video game industry that Grand Theft Auto 6 will be priced between $80 and $100, one analyst has said. In a wide-ranging presentation on the state of gaming in 2025, Epilion CEO Matthew Ball said Rockstar's guaranteed mega hit could re-establish packed video game prices after decades of deflation despite rampant cost growth. In his report, Ball reported that some game makers hope GTA 6 will be priced at $80 to $100, breaking the $70 barrier and also helping $50 titles to move up to $60, $60 to do $70, $70 to $80, etc. While this price hike would certainly raise eyebrows with the video game audience, Ball argued that a $70 GTA 6 would be the cheapest GTA game ever released in real terms. That is, when taking inflation into account. In real terms, $91 would be average, Ball said. Packed game prices have never been lower in real terms than they are today, even though budgets are at all-time highs and player growth is stalled, Ball said in the report. GTA 6 could re-establish packed video game prices after decades of deflation despite rampant cost growth. Taking to social media to follow up on his report, Ball said he doesn't actually think Rockstar will go to $100 with GTA 6, betting instead it will stick with $70 or at a push go for $80. What I said is many in the market hope for $80, if not $99.99, he clarified. Might a price hike start a backlash, though? Can't really speculate on a game that is barely even revealed, Ball continued. But the $70 bump from $60 in 2020, which bought under 3 years of inflation control, was pretty without issue. Much without issue? Whatever price GTA 6 ends up selling for, its huge projected revenue is up against similarly huge development costs, estimated from the high hundreds of millions to as much as $2 billion. There's a lot riding on GTA 6 then, but not just for Take-Two and Rockstar. So we've talked before about how much power Rockstar and Take-Two have with GTA 6 in particular. They might have even more power than we'd have thought, because they could set the new prices for games going forward if they decide to do that. It's very much a who's gonna jump first kind of thing.
Yeah, the thing is though that even if they do set their game GTA 6 at $100, does that even necessarily justify other publishers following suit with their games? I mean, I'm not saying that they wouldn't try it, but I can see people being, as you know, Ryan says, I can see people being more receptive to $100 for GTA 6, maybe Red Dead Redemption 3, other absolutely huge games. But if you saw a similar price tag on various other, even sequels to popular franchises, I think there would be justifiably a bit of backlash on that. I guess what we might be seeing instead is that games that at the moment you might see listed for $35 if it's a kind of a smaller thing, or $60, not going up to $100, but going up kind of relative to that. So maybe it'll be $70 now for what used to be a sort of a $50 game. So yeah, it could all just go up alongside, setting the new price range, not just the new price cap. If GTA do that, so. I don't know, like, personally, it just kind of feels like a principle thing, like seeing it in three figures. I understand that inflation is a thing, it has to happen, and there will come a point in the next few years, or certainly within a decade or two, where probably we are looking at $100 for a game, because $1 is worth less. That's how inflation works. So it's kind of inevitable, but it just kind of feels very icky. I think particularly while we've got a Cosy Lives going on. As I said in our news video, if my budget for a month is, I'm going to spend $70 a month on games max, then if suddenly the price goes up to $100, I'm not going to increase that budget. I'm just going to have to save slightly longer, or buy a new game every 6 weeks. So my money going into the industry would not increase. I would still be spending exactly the same amount of money. It would just take me longer to go from one game to the next. So, and I know I don't speak for everyone, and maybe lots of people would quite happily just start splashing more cash at games if the price went up. And so that would probably have a knock-on effect and trickle down to hopefully the staff who are actually working on the games as well. But certainly for me, I wouldn't be contributing any more to the industry if the prices go up. I'd just be playing new games less often.
I've been thinking about this a lot this week, because there was a lot of conversations that happen kind of a lot of the time when it comes to like price versus length being seemingly quite important. And I agree. Like if I'm paying for a 16-hour game, I would struggle to say that's worth £100. I've been trying to like rationalize the costs within. So this weekend I was talking a lot about like how myself and my partner play games instead of watching movies and TV shows. And someone was talking about how they go to the cinema quite a lot. And I was like, well, realistically, if I'm going to the cinema to watch 4 movies that are like potentially, 2 hours long, that's about 40-50 quid when you're looking at cinema tickets, unless you got the discounts, which would love to have all of those. Go big up Meerkat Movies.
Orange Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Simples.
But like
Orange Wednesdays.
I'm kind of like, well, I can see the point people make when it comes to, well, the longer the game is, then I'm getting more out of it, that it's worth my money more. I think the issue is with this is if GTA 6 is £100 and it will do well regardless of how much it costs, and it sells, millions of copies and they make loads and loads of money. it won't just stop with GTA 6. We will see so many more games releasing at £100, and the precedent will be set that people will pay for an £100 game. And yes, some games will be spurned by this. I don't think Ubisoft would be able to release an Assassin's Creed game for £100 and expect people to actually pay for it. But like Ryan says, this one's kind of like an event type game, you know. But I do think that it will set a precedent that games will be more expensive, and we will see them selling for a lot more money and maybe not coming down as quickly as they do when it comes to like sales and stuff. If I knew for certain that paying more money for a game was going to benefit the developers and was going to prohibit layoffs and make sure people's lives were better and be reinvested in the people who make the game, I would have no qualms in paying more for a game. But I don't trust that that's what's going to happen. And I think I will end up lining the pockets of some fat cat who's already got millions and millions of pounds, you know.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I struggle with it as well in that sense. I've been like really trying to rationalize it a lot in terms of like £100 for what maybe with GTA 6 might end up being like, I don't know, like a 60, 70 hour game. I can kind of see it being maybe more worth more than £1 a minute, £1 an hour, sorry. But yeah, it's difficult. It's a difficult one. And I think we'll have to see if it happens and how it shifts things. I think the repercussions would be difficult to guess right now, because it could be that sells for £100 and then everything else stays at 60 and 70. But it could also be that sells for £100 and everything else suddenly starts looking at being $99.99 and everything suddenly gets a lot more expensive.
Yeah. It's tricky because games should be more expensive if they increased in price, in line with inflation and stuff like that. But to counter that, the obvious answer is, as you said, Peter, people's wages have not risen in line with inflation, and it's very expensive to just be alive at the moment. And also the fact that games cost so much to make is not the consumer's fault. That's a decision that's been made by people much higher up the food chain, and to put that back on the people who are buying your product is, I feel, a little unfair. Eyebrows are already raised at the £70 price tag for games. If you try something like this, people will be furious. I just don't think the PR disaster would necessarily be worth it. However, if they do go up to, for argument's sake, $100, then it's not going to be a case-by-case basis. The floodgates will be open. Everyone will try and do it. Ubisoft will try and do it. Everyone will try and get as much money out of it as possible. The developers will not be protected in that situation. And we're also at a bit of a crossroads at the moment. There's definitely a reckoning in terms of how much can you charge for a game, because the culture around video games is massively shifting. A lot of people are subscribed to things like Game Pass, where they get unlimited access to a set of games each month, and then those games roll in and out, and they very rarely buy new games. You've got an awful lot of people playing free-to-play games like Marvel Rivals, etc. And then on top of that, you've got an entire new generation who are being brought up on Roblox and Fortnite and aren't accustomed to spending any money at all, apart from maybe some Robux and things like that. They are not going to spend $60, $70 on a game, and they are certainly not going to spend $100 on a game. It's very tricky. If it did happen, though, I agree with Ryan, though. I think it would be a case of, $100 for like these big blockbuster games. Maybe you can justify it, perhaps, if you had to, if there was no other choice. But every single company is going to start charging $100 as soon as somebody else does. And you could
argue, like, how do you quantify what a big blockbuster game is? Like, obviously, GTA 6 is a kind of,
once in a generation.
Yeah. But you might be like, well, this God of War is a pretty blockbuster game.
People like Spider-Man.
People like Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's where it is definitely a slippery slope. I can't see a way that they do this and they don't piss everyone off. But the problem is that it is Rockstar and it is GTA, and they could do whatever they want, really, and people are just going to have to fall in line. And it's not going to go on sale for ages because enough people will. It'd be like Cyberpunk all over again. Like it's broken, but so many people have bought it that price isn't going down. You know,
the issue is as well that games are, as we've waxed lyrical about, you know, games are so big now. There's so much content, so much side content, but games being designed that way, not necessarily every player is going to play it that way. So you might have, I mean, GTA 6 maybe is a bit of an exception to the rule, but if we, for argument's sake, say that some other big blockbuster style games might go up to $100 in line with this as well, if you're releasing a game that you're justifying your $100 price tag because there's 60 hours of gameplay in this game, well, some of your target audience, all they're going to want to do is play the main story because that's maybe all they've got time for. So can they even justify $70 at the moment for a game where they know they're probably going to play, you know, maybe 20 hours of it, just get to the credits, not touch any of the side stuff, maybe not even go into for the DLC, to try and charge $100 for a game where some people might just be doing the main quest. That's going to be even harder to justify, I think.
And also games are too big, and it's difficult. Again, this has been just a debate that's been going on for as long as I feel like indie games have been around, but like the cost versus, or the size versus experience debate, where it's like, I would pay gladly 60, 70 pounds for an experience that's like 20 hours long, but is really good. And I have a great
not
time.
Bloated.
I don't feel like I should have to pay more for a game that is bigger and is longer. I feel like that's, you shouldn't be able to put a price tag on that necessarily. There are, you know, exceptions. Obviously, I'm not saying that some tiny indie game that you can finish in an hour should cost 70 pounds necessarily, but if they wanted to charge that, then all the power to them, I suppose. But certainly I feel like if you're saying $100 for the next Assassin's Creed game is fair because technically it's like a 150-hour game if you do everything. It's like that makes me want to play it even less.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I would pay the same amount for a much shorter game. You don't need to quantify it or justify it in that way.
It's infuriating to think that part of the justification for putting this price up is not just, I mean, behind closed doors, it's to line the pockets of fat cats. But the front-facing answer would be, you know, we really want to make these huge games for you. We want to make them bigger. We want to be able to keep making these enormous experiences. And actually, there's a segment, I don't know how big it is, but there's a segment of the audience who are saying, I don't need that. The games are already too big. So don't start putting the price up and promising more of the same or even bigger, because that is not actually a good prospect to me. That sounds like a negative. You know, that's sort of taking it to the extreme, but, you know.
I also think it depends on what you go to games for. Like if you go to games for something that you can sink hours and hours of your time into just to be in a game and be playing a game, then okay, the bigger may be better for you. There's some massive games out there. But if you're going to a game for an experience, for the story, for the characters, for the art style, for like it to make you feel something, there are so many games that are much cheaper and much smaller that can kind of give you that experience without it having to be £100. And if you're saying like, well, I can play one massive game for £100, but spend hours of it mind-numbingly meandering around somewhere, or I can buy 5 different games for 20 quid, and all of those games are maybe max 7 hours long, but will have me gripped or will have me like feeling something for the character or please me in different ways. Like that's it's all about what's important to you when it comes to buying a game in general. But I think that maybe, you know, that's a conversation. If prices do go up, like that's something to really consider.
Yeah.
Would you pay for it?
I don't know, man.
I honestly don't. I'm not sure, because it is just, that is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we're in a very fortunate position, of course, where we get sent codes for games for free to cover them on the channel. And even if we don't get sent a code, we can quite often kind of justify buying something through the company if we're going to stream it. So we are very, very fortunate. Yeah. But we still buy games occasionally when we need to, when it's not sort of TripleJump related. And even if I thought GTA 6 is objectively worth $100, and again, we're still talking hypothetically here. There's no news that it is going to be $100. But if that's what the price tag might be, and if I look at it and think, all right, there is $100 worth of content in there on paper that is a fair price in that sense. Can I still justify spending that much? You know, a sports car is probably worth $50,000, but I'm not going to spend $50,000 on a sports car, even if it is worth the tag assigned to it, because it's not sensible.
I think it's going to depend a lot on like what other things I have bought, like game-wise, what other games are coming out soon or beforehand. Because like I'm excited to play GTA 6, like I'm not going to pretend I'm not, but there's also lots of other games that are coming out this year that I am also excited to play. And if those games are going to cost me 60, 70 quid, I'm going to struggle to justify then like maybe not buying 2 games I want so that I can buy this other game. It's gonna depend on a lot. Like I don't know. It's hard. I don't very often like spend a lot of money buying new games, especially not as of recent. So I think I would struggle to justify it a bit more than other things, I think. How about you?
I am fortunate in that I do that account sharing thing with my friend. So begrudgingly, and I wouldn't be thrilled about it at all. I would do it, but only because I'd be able to half the cost by splitting it.
Yeah.
But if I was just removing all the other aspects of like, what does this mean for other game prices and stuff? If they were like, right, GTA 6 is coming out, you've been waiting 12 years for it. It's gonna set your brain on fire in a good way. But it's $100. I would have to think. I've never paid more than $100 for a game. I don't believe in all of the stupid special editions I've ever bought for things. I don't think I've ever bought an edition that went over £100. The fact that this would just be the game and nothing else, and a digital version of that, so not even a nice box to put on my shelf. It would be challenging, but I think unfortunately I'm so interested in playing GTA 6 and so looking forward to it. It does feel like such a monumental zeitgeist occurrence that I don't think I'd have any choice. And that is the power that they have. I feel a bit similar about it. They sort of have us over a barrel here where they could charge anything, and you would moan and you'd grumble, but you probably would pay it.
But I think that's the principle for me, is that like I agree it is going to be the game of the generation and then some. I mean, maybe not just the console generation, but you know, kind of
they'll be re-releasing it for decades.
Yeah, exactly. So it is going to be a must play, but I think it just would annoy me that much that them knowing it's such a must play, they kind of feel like they can do what they like, and you know, it wouldn't be really difficult for me to, you know, as you say, Ashton, I would maybe just have to, in this time I might buy 2 games normally, I would just buy GTA once. So it's not like I'm sort of struggling to work out, how would I fund it? But it's just like knowing that I'm giving $100 away for one game I think it would just annoy me too much. So I'm not even saying that I definitely wouldn't, and my answer is no, but I would really struggle to justify it just on principle.
Well, hopefully it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But we will just have to wait and see. There's rumors every week, but it could be that by the end of this month we get a second trailer potentially. That's the latest one. I don't know if they're doing that on the waning gibbon phase of the moon this time, or if they saw something in their cereal in the morning. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could have been a hint, but yes. What do you think? Are you willing to spend that money, and what do you think it means for the wider industry as well? Let us know in the comments below. There's a few places around the internet that you can find us. Peter's going to start off by telling you a couple of them right now.
You can find us on youtube.com/Team TripleJump, where we post videos, and we stream on both Twitch and YouTube. That's twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. And if you've got Amazon Prime, part of that bundle includes a Twitch sub at no extra cost. So you can redeem that against our channel and get all the benefits of being a subscriber.
We are Team TripleJump on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. So come over and say hello. And if you'd like to support us on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Team TripleJump.
TripleJ.mup is our website. That's where you can find links to everything that we do. And if you go to triplejU.mp/video game, you will be redirected to the Steam page for our video game that we're making. It will cost $100, and you can wishlist it right now. Also, why don't you leave a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms. And we'd really bloody appreciate it.
It won't cost $100.
It will.
It won't.
We're gonna have a conversation later, and I'm gonna change it on the back end.
$200.
Yeah.
Peter, there's just enough time to talk about this week's sponsor. Can I have it again, please?
You excited for those plants to kill those undead stormtroopers?
Boy, am I.
Well, why don't you play the new DLC for Plants vs. Zombies Jedi Flower Battles? Why don't you?
Why don't you?
Why don't you?
Excuse me, why are you not?
Because
why are
it's
you not playing it?
$100.
It's
Yeah.
$100.
That's why.
Yeah.
Right, we'll see you next time, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.
Bye.